Hey guys, and welcome to my review for House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 5, Regent. And for me, it was pretty good. Overall, I would call this a middling episode. I still enjoyed it quite a bit, but the pace definitely slowed down after last week's amazing battle, and there were some parts I didn't like as much. So let's get into it with the positives, negatives, my top 5 moments, and a final score. Beginning with the positives, I'll start with the Corlys Velaryon scenes, as it was so sad seeing him mourn his wife, but so well acted. I've been a big fan of this character, and I feel the show did a great job portraying the closeness of their marriage. I did think it was a little silly when Baela suggested Corlys made all his sea voyages for his wife, as he'd been sailing since he was a child, completing his legendary journeys before marrying 16-year-old Rhaenys in 90 AC. And aside from that, his biggest priority was always to create a lasting legacy for his family. But still, it's a nice thought and served as a great bonding moment between grandfather and granddaughter. I was a bit confused as to why Corlys offered her Driftmark, since she's betrothed to Jacaerys and in theory will be Queen of Westeros. But it's very possible he simply didn't think about it or care in his moment of grieving, and saw only the possible strength of her leadership. It was also nice seeing him named Hand of the Queen, though it was a slight change from the books where the position was offered by Jacaerys, who assumed increased responsibilities after the Battle of Rook's Rest. Over in the capital, it was fascinating watching Criston Cole's transformation into a much darker, more sullen soldier, as he wrestles with the realities of all he saw. Not only the devastation on the ground, but also Aemon's attack and the king's fall. There must be so much going through his head, but ultimately I think he made the right decision. Any chance of saving his own honor and integrity fled a long time ago. The only thing he has left are practical considerations for victory. On top of that, after everything he saw, Cole is well aware Aemon might be the most dangerous man in the continent. So even if he is denied power, what's to stop him from trying to take it? So, he sides with Aemon, and his efforts are rewarded to some degree as Aemon immediately displays a competency Aegon never had, taking charge and making decisions. Though, Aemon also shows his weaknesses later in the episode by closing the city gates without considering how that'll rile up the people toward rebellion. Aemon was great this episode and slipped into the role of Regent so readily and naturally, and that shot near the end of him in front of the Iron Throne felt really powerful. But back to Criston, the trauma from the battle was so powerful it even bypassed his romantic feelings for Alicent, as the two seem to have finally parted for good. But even beyond their intimacy, she was always his patron and benefactor, saving him when he wanted to end his own life, protecting him politically and advancing his career. All she asked for in return was loyalty, and in the end he betrayed her as he had everything else in his life. Although it was a short scene, I really liked the interaction between Rhaena and Lady Jane Arryn of the Vale. They both did very well, I thought, with Lady Jane coming off as a strong, fearsome leader who won't be taken advantage of, while remaining polite and accommodating to her guest. Rhaena also did a great job suppressing her feelings to defend the Queen's position and their mission in the Vale. I really look forward to seeing more of these two. Like always, I enjoyed Jacaerys Velaryon this episode, although I will say I prefer the audiobook pronunciation of his name with a hard C, rather than Jacaerys as they call him in the show. But I could really feel his desperation to act in the last few episodes. He's a young, well-trained dragon rider eager to fight and win this war, but Rhaenyra understandably can't accept putting him in danger, preferring to go herself while also knowing that's not a wise course of action. His meeting with the ever self-interested Freys was also pretty enjoyable, as they actually played an important role in the Riverlands campaign of the books, with Sabitha Frey even becoming a member of the Lads, who earned great fame throughout the war. So it was nice to see Jacaerys successfully complete another negotiation, not only opening a route for their northern allies, but bringing the Frey army to the Queen's banner. Harrenhal is a pretty big prize for the Freys, but overall I think it was a good deal, because not only do the Blacks get an army and passage to the north, but the Freys are a fairly wealthy house who want to make a name for themselves, so there's a good chance they would actually put the effort and money into restoring the castle and making it a productive resource for the territory. I haven't been the biggest fan of Rhaenyra's character the last few episodes, but I finally see her making some intelligent, forward-thinking decisions, first by sending Sir Alfred Broom to the Riverlands, as it not only serves to dismiss a constant source of disrespect, diminishing her authority in the small council, it also takes a necessary step to re-establish contact with Daemon and his army. This can also be interpreted favorably by Sir Alfred as an important mission tasked to a trusted and loyal friend of the Queen. Basically a win-win all around, finally demonstrating leadership and rational thinking. And finally, the last positive I want to mention is the Queen's servant entering the capital and meeting with the serving girl once raped by King Aegon. Spreading rumors and provoking riots is another excellent strategy employed by the Queen and Mysaria, as this strikes a hard blow against the home of their enemy, at virtually no cost to themselves. Riots not only have the potential to damage the enemy physically, but would also serve as a significant propaganda victory, since everything making Aegon look bad automatically makes Rhaenyra look better by comparison. Granted, innocent people will certainly be hurt and killed, but when it comes to a practical strategy of war, it's smart thinking. It's really nice seeing these two characters finally start to make some strong and consequential decisions. Now, moving on to the negatives, none of these were all that bad, but I was a bit underwhelmed by the Jacaerys and Baela scene, as they've been betrothed for a long time by this point, and I would expect them to have closer, more romantic interactions. But instead they continue to speak like friends, not even hugging or holding hands before parting for an extended period. And for me at least, this limits the emotional connection I have with the ultimate fate of their relationship. One negative I'll mention about Jacaerys is how he tried to dismiss his mother's research into Visenya Targaryen. Since Rhaenyra is clearly lacking in many areas of leadership, research and reading the histories seems like an important priority. It would have been nice if she began these preparations years earlier, but better late than never. Of course, he doesn't want her flying into battle like Visenya did, but realistically, Rhaenyra may have to at some point, so any potential preparation should be encouraged. Lastly, I want to mention Daemon in the Riverlands, specifically the Harrenhal scenes. Again, I have no interest at all in this weird drug trip stuff or whatever's going on with him. Even his interactions with Alice Rivers lost my interest, as I feel the show completely spoiled the opportunity to create a cool military commander storyline with Daemon. All the military stuff is like a backdrop to his self-exploration, and I find it tough to watch. Despite the Riverlands storyline being my favorite campaign in the books, I now find myself eagerly waiting for the scenes to end so I can get back to enjoying the show. Now let's move on to my top 5 moments, starting at number 5 with the head of Meleys paraded through King's Landing. What an amazing visual it was, seeing this giant head rotting in the sun as it's carried through the streets like a prize, only for the people to see another ill omen, further escalating tensions and fears. It was nice seeing Hugh Hammer again, but I'm very worried for his family as his daughter looks in bad shape and things in the city are only going to get worse. I also smiled at the wife's mention of Tumbleton because of the role it'll play in the future. At the number 4 spot, we go to the Bracken Defiance against Daemon Targaryen. Although I'm a big fan of the Blackwoods, it was really cool seeing the Bracken so brazen and courageous in their refusal to submit. I was pretty disappointed that the Blackwoods waged their vicious war and took Stonehenge off screen, but at least some military strategy is being employed and the army of the Riverlands is starting to assemble. Although Daemon is now facing opposition from certain river lords who object to the harsh tactics, which according to the subtitles included representatives from houses Derry and Piper. While in the books, I don't recall anyone really having a problem with the brutal tactics, as both houses Derry and Piper participated in the conquest of Stonehenge. For the third best moment of the night, I went with Alicent visiting Aegon, who suffered severe burns and broken bones in the battle at Rook's Rest. I will say I was a bit surprised that throughout the episode Alicent wasn't as devastated as I thought she'd be from the near death of her son. Instead, it seemed like she was more upset about losing power and influence. But at least when she was watching the Maesters start their work, she did seem genuinely horrified by the extent of his injuries. It was also absolutely heartbreaking hearing Aegon whimper for his mother later on after she left the room. For the second best moment of the night, I went with the final scene discussing the Dragonseeds and the possibility of raising dragon riders from the illegitimate descendants of House Targaryen. Although I prefer the way the books handled the situation, as Jacaerys came up with the idea after a funny conversation with the Jester Mushroom, this was a very cool scene and I can't wait to see the Dragonseeds. Spoiler alert for the rest of the series, but since they've set up several Dragonseed candidates like Hugh Hammer, Ulf the White, Adam of Hall, and Alan of Hall, it looks like they might have cut Nettles out of the show, which is understandable because of time constraints, but still disappointing. And as much as I'm looking forward to the sowing of the seeds, it's gonna be tough to watch all the deaths and injuries. Finally, for the best moment of the night, I've chosen the Green Small Council scene where Aemond One-Eye was made regent. Everything about this meeting was great, including seeing both Laris and Cole side with Aemond out of cold calculation, though Laris seems to want personal power while Cole wants military victory. But the real star of the show here was Alicent Hightower, as the look of panic on her face and heavy breathing was absolutely mesmerizing, watching Aemond take his place and lead the meeting. Clearly, she knows he's responsible for Aegon's injuries, and for those few moments in the meeting, it seemed like she was finally realizing what a mess of a situation she created, and how they're now fighting to ensure a violent monster stays in power. Olivia Cooke is absolutely nailing her role as Alicent. What an amazing scene. So that's my review for House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 5, Regent. Like I said at the beginning, for me this was a mostly middling episode, slowly moving the story forward. I can't say it was my favorite, but I did enjoy it overall, and it was another strong episode for a great series. So I'm gonna give this one a solid 8 out of 10, with the hopes the Dragonseed event next week really picks up the pace for the second half of the season. But what did you all think? Do you agree this is a middling episode or disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to come back for my next review along with the Dance of the Dragons themed videos released every Sunday. So that's it for now guys, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Mamoru the Obscured Hermit Alchemist, Kurgan the Immortal, Griffin Giantsbane, and Dane Battlehammer. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.